So brief introduction about cleft lip and palate. Cleft lip and palate are the most common congenital deformities seen at birth, and it can be defined as a congenital abnormal gap in the palate that may occur alone or in conjunction with cleft lip or alveolus cleft. So first, coming to the definition of cleft lip and palate. So as you can understand, cleft is nothing but a split or a division. Either it can be in a muscle or into skin or into bone. Cleft lip is a congenital deformity of upper lip that varies from notching to complete division of lip. Any degree of cleft may be present in the patient, and cleft palate is a congenital split of the palate that may extend through the uvula, soft palate, and into the hard palate also. The lip may or may not be involved with cleft palate. So coming to the development of cleft lip and palate. So first we need to understand how the development of palate occurs. So in the development of palate, we all know that it is divided into two parts, that is development of primary palate and development of secondary palate. So development of primary palate, as it states, that it occurs during the 5th week of intrauterine life as a result of the median growth of the maxillary process and the nasal process from the intermaxillary component, which combine together to form a single globular process, as you can see in the picture here. Similarly, coming to the development of secondary palate, so by the end of 6th week of development, the nasal cavities primitive are separated by primary nasal septum and are partitioned from primitive oral cavity by the primary palate. The primary palate and primary nasal septum are derived from the frontonasal process. So during this 6th week, the two lateral palatal shells, they develop behind the primary palate from the maxillary process, and a secondary nasal septum grows down from the roof of the stomatodium behind the primary nasal septum. It divides the nasal part of the oronasal cavity into two. Now fusion of the palatal processes gets completed by 12th week of development. After elevation of the palatal shells, they contact with each other and adhere by means of sticky glycoprotein, which coats the surface of the medial edge epithelia of the shells. Right. So after the elevation of palatal shells, they contact each other, and adhere by the sticky glycoproteins, which coat the surface of the medial edge of the epithelium of the shells. So this is the picture showing the development of palate. In this picture, as you can see, that this is the medial nasal process and these are the maxillary process. The maxillary process, they approach each other in the median and finally they fuse together. But in the cleft lip or palate, the happens is that primary palate is formed, both the palatal shells are formed, but because they are not able to fuse in between, and it leads to cleft palate. This is the finally fused palate which is seen. Now certain theories are there about the cleft. That is, one is Darcy hypothesis, which states that failure of the fusion between the median nasal and maxillary process is the reason of cleft lip and palate. According to view, failure of growth of mesoderm between the two palatal shells leads to cleft palate. Alteration in intrinsic palantal forces or excessive head width or diminutive palatal shells, excessive tongue resistance, non-fusion of shells, fusion of shells with subsequent breakdown, failure of tongue to drop down in case of Pierre-Robin syndrome, and inclusion cyst pathology are some of the common reasons of cleft palate. A brief about the incidence of cleft lip and palate. Cleft lip and palate, it affects approximately 1:1000 of Caucasians, 1:500 of Asians, and 1:2000 of Afro-Americans. Although majority of the patients with cleft lip and palate are healthy, approximately 25% have been associated with some kind of birth defect or chromosomal abnormality or some kind of genetic syndrome. More chances of cleft in the patients with a family history of the same or history of the consanguineous marriages. Overall incidence ranges from 0.3 to 6.5 per 1000 live births. Negroid race has the least incidence, while Mongoloid has the maximum. Cleft lip is more common in males than females. Unilateral clefts are more common compared to bilateral clefts. Left side has more predisposition for clefts compared to the right side, and the incidence increases with the increase of the parietal age. This is a picture showing the etiology of cleft lip and palate. As you can see, hereditary is very important role. If there is a history of cleft lip or palate in the parents, then there is a chances more to in children. Deficiency of folic acid, vitamin A, or decreased blood supply of the nasomaxillary region, increased maternal age, environmental factors like teratogens like rubella virus or thalidomide, mutant genes like some of the syndromes which are associated with cleft lip and palate, and finally the chromosomal aberrations like cleft can occur in the chromosomal defects like trisomy 21. Now we come to the classification of cleft lip and palate. According to Davis and Ritchie classification in 1922, he divided cleft lip and palate into three groups. The group 1 is pre-alveolar clefts, that is the clefts only with subdivision unilateral, medial or bilateral clefts. Second group he classified as post-alveolar clefts, that is the degree of involvement of the soft palate and hard palate. It can be up to the alveolar ridge or submucous cleft. And group 3 is alveolar cleft, that is the complete cleft of the palate, alveolar ridge, and the subdivision may be in a unilateral or a medial cleft or bilateral cleft. View gave a classification in 1931 for the cleft lip and palate. According to his classification, they are classified into group 1, where it involves the cleft of soft palate only. Group 2 is the cleft of the hard palate and the soft palate up to the incisive foramen. Group 3 is the complete unilateral cleft of the soft palate, hard palate and lip, and alveolar ridge on one side, that is unilateral cleft. And group 4 is complete bilateral cleft of soft palate, hard palate, lip and the alveolar ridge on both the sides. This is one more classification given by Kernahan classification, which is also called as stripped Y classification. This is a symbolic classification in which numbering is given to each side representing the oral cavity. The shaded area denotes the presence of cleft in the area. So as you can see, there is a Y where the one limb of the Y represents the right side of the face or the palate, and the other represents the left side of the palate, and 7, 8, 9 are the midline effect areas. So labeling, according to labeling, 1 and 4 represents the lip, 2, 5 represent the alveolus, 3 and 6 represent the hard palate which is anterior to incisive foramen, 7, 8 are representing the hard palate behind the incisive foramen, and 9 is the cleft of soft palate. Again, this is a picture which is showing the various diagrams of cleft lip and palate. We can see in the first picture there is normal baby, then there is a cleft lip of the baby, then bilateral cleft lip of the baby. This is how the appearance of cleft lip is seen intraorally. This is normal cleft lip, second is the unilateral cleft lip, and third is the bilateral cleft lip. Now in last picture we see there is a cleft palate involved. So one is the cleft palate, second is the cleft palate and cleft lip involved, and second is last picture is bilateral cleft lip and palate. Again you can see that this is the normal palate, then there is a soft palate cleft, then the hard palate cleft, then complete palatal cleft and bilateral cleft. Again last picture is showing unilateral cleft lip of palate, bilateral cleft lip palate or cleft palate of palate only. These are the clinical features associated with cleft lip and palate. Chief complaint of the patient is either deformity of the face, inability to feed, that is difficulty in feeding, and nasal regurgitation of the fluids. Some of the dental problems which are commonly associated with cleft lip and palate are congenitally missing teeth, neonatal teeth or supernumerary teeth, ectopic eruption of the teeth, anomalies of tooth size and shape, micro or macrodontia, fused teeth, enamel hypoplasia is seen, deep bite or open bite, cross bite, crowding. These are some of the dental clinical features which are seen in the patient. Aesthetic concerns are that there is loss of facial morphology and the missing teeth structure. Hearing and speech pattern is also affected in the children with cleft lip and palate. It happens because of disorders of the middle ear or nasal twang in the voice is seen, or difficulty in articulation of teeth is there. It affects psychologically also. So because of cleft lip and palate, psychological effects are seen are because of the defect the patients are subjected to curiosity or pity or separated from their normal counterparts in the society, and this results in a social, mental or recreational trauma to the patient. These are some of the syndromes which are associated with cleft lip and palate, like van der Waals syndrome, Lorsen syndrome, Meckel syndrome, orofacial digital syndrome, or trisomy 13 or 18 Pierre-Robin syndrome, left with the congenital heart disease, etc. Now coming to the treatment plan of the cleft lip and palate. First is the stage 1, that is the maxillary orthopedic stage. This starts or lasts from birth to 18 months of age. In this first part is initial obturator therapy. It is done from the birth to 3 months of the age. As you can see in the left picture that there is a cleft involved in the patient. We have put a obturator which will cover the cleft and thus it will help in feeding of the child. Next stage is the pre-surgical orthopedics, which starts from birth to 5 months of age. The aim of this step is to achieve an upper arch which conforms to the lower arch. In case where premaxilla is positioned anteriorly, it may be present difficult to do the surgical lip closure. Therefore, it has to be corrected first by pre-surgical orthopedics, and it is done by retraction plate or premaxillary retraction tape. Third step in the treatment is the surgical lip closure. It can be done from 3 to 9 months of age, and this is the best time for the lip repair as lip is not much developed and the border is not very conspicuous. Rule of 10 is very important to apply in this time, and at the time of surgery rule of 10 is important to follow. It states that the age of the child should not be less than 10 weeks, the weight of the child should not be less than 10 pounds at least, and they should have at least 10 gram% of hemoglobin. These are the surgical techniques which you use to repair the cleft lip and palate. In the cleft lip, this is called Millard's repair technique, in which an incision is done on the one side of the cleft and the flap is raised, and that loose flap is used to cover the defect, and then it is sutured. Another technique to do is the Tennyson-Randall repair, in which a zigzag type of the incision is done, a flap is raised and it is sutured over the defect. Now coming to the surgical palate repair, that is done during the 10 to 18 months of age. This time of the palatal repair is very vital for the further growth and aesthetics of the child. One is done is single stage technique, which is also called as the von Langenbeck repair or VY pushback palatoplasty, and the disadvantage may be mid facial growth retardation. In this, what we do that on both the sides of the palate we give the releasing incisions and the shells are sutured onto its defect. So this is done in a one stage technique, that is a VY pushback palatoplasty. Two stage repair is that first the soft palate is repaired around 18 months of age, and later on the hard palate is repaired by 4 years of age. This is also called as the skin Van Dyck procedure. As you can see in the picture, first the soft palate defect is repaired and then the hard palate defect is repaired in 2 stages. Now second, coming to the primary dentition stage, that is the stage 2. This extends from 18 months to 5 years of age. The treatment carried in during this stage are like adjustment to obturators, restoration of any decayed teeth in the primary dentition, maintenance of good oral hygiene, and evaluating the eruption dentition. Next stage is the mid dentition stage. The main problems are encountered during this stage are due to the ectopic eruption of teeth and the malalignment. The procedures are correction of crossbite, maxillary expansion or secondary grafting. These are done during the mixed dentition stages. And finally the permanent dentition stage. During this stage the patient can be treated in a conventional manner. Mainly the treatment it is undertaken is the fixed orthodontic treatment. All type of dental or skeletal irregularities are correlated, corrected in this, and cosmetic repair are also carried out during this phase, but it is the last treatment to be undertaken. Thank you. That's all will be all for today.